How many of you have ever seen Duck Dynasty? Just, I'm curious. Oh, good. A lot of you. That's excellent. It's amazing because we had not met Megan before today, and how similar our philosophy was in going into what we are into, and they're totally different, and yet in many ways they're a lot alike. And the show came out, and obviously it became very successful very quickly, and so people began to talk about it as they'll do, and they said, "You got to check out this show. It's called. So what is it? It's called Duck Dynasty. What is it? A Chinese restaurant? What is that? What does that mean, Duck Dynasty?" And so they said, "Well, it's kind of like Andy Griffith, the Waltons, a little Dukes of Hazzard sprinkled in there, and it's these bearded people from Louisiana, and they begin to tell they build duck calls." And so I was like, "What is the deal?" So we set out, with the same philosophy Megan had, not to make a spiritual or religious show, but to make a really good and funny show that networks would pick up. And of course, our faith was always a part of who we were, but we weren't going to be the 700 Club for rednecks. We were actually going to have, a funny show that people would like, and they do. And a lot of young people like it first, which is awesome. I always compared our show to the Munsters. Has anybody ever seen the Munsters? All the young people are like, "What?" Well, they do have TV Land, by the way, so check it out sometime. Munsters is a great old 60s show, kind of like the shows were of that era. And so the concept was they had this family of monsters, and they had this beautiful cousin come to live with them. Now, those of you that know the show, do you know her name? Marilyn. Two people remember Marilyn Munster. That's the problem with beautiful people living with ugly people. They don't remember them. Well, I can completely relate to Marilyn Munster. I got it. I got the Marilyn Munster complex because, I live with the people that I live with. I'm the only Robertson male that's never been mistaken as homeless. This guy right here. That's 100% true. Everybody has a story, some multiple stories, I've been walking behind Dad and Si in the airport before, and I was trailing them, maybe, 15 or 20 feet back, and they walked past this woman and a little girl, and the little girl looked up as they walked by, and as I'm walking by, she told her mom, "Look at those poor men." Like, how did they get in an airport, And so, that you don't know, right? You don't know till you know. When you look at a family photo of the brothers, you can see that we weren't born with beards, contrary to what a lot of people think. We're not sure about Uncle Si. There's no record of his birth, by the way, just so you know. He may have been born with a beard. But you look at and then you look and see what happens. You're like, how does this happen? How does did my dad go in as senior of high school, sit down with a guidance counselor and say, I'm thinking about letting myself go. I'm not going to cut my hair, shave my beard. Bathing will be optional. And then I'm going to be successful, run a large company, and become a huge voice for the conservative evangelicals in America. I mean, you wouldn't script it that way, which means that God must have had something to do with it, right? And so we believe that to be true. I want to tell you a little bit about our personalities, kind of how they are and set up, just to give you a little background for the brothers and my dad and my Uncle Si. And I'm going to do that by using Labrador Retrievers as my illustration. I don't know if any of you have a lab dog. Labs are wonderful animals. They're our go-to dog for retrieving. And the black lab is particularly a good dog. I mean, he is the go-getter. He will break through ice, water. He's whimpering by the truck. He wants to go get a duck as much as we want to shoot a duck. I mean, that's how much black labs love it. Now, in our family, the black labs are my dad, the duck commander, and Jace. They both have that in them. I mean, it's never too cold. They're never too sick. We may not have shot a duck in 7 days, and it's like, boys, today's going to be the day we get them. They're black labs. They're always ready to go. Now, a yellow lab is a great hunting dog. They'll go get your ducks, but they're also very domesticated. They'll hang out at the house. They'll look after the kids. They make great service pets, because they're very connected to people. Well, that's me, yours truly, beardless brother, and my brother Jep, who we also call my little sister because he's very sensitive. The two of us are yellow labs. That's what we are. And we don't mind that. We don't mind being, we get used and abused because we'll stay home and sleep in. We hadn't killed any dogs. It's okay. We don't have to turn in our man card. We're yellow labs. It's all right. We like people. Now, any dog breeder will tell you, take those two dog breeds and you cross them, which you begin to break down the breed of a dog, by the way, and you get a chocolate lab. So that's a combination of those two. Now, the problem here is that as you break down a breed of a dog, what happens is they get kooky and crazy, and you don't know what you're going to get. So you get a chocolate lab that may be a real go-getter, and the other one may not know come here from Sikkim. You know, that's just the way it is. In our family, believe it or not, the chocolate lab is my brother, Willie. He's the CEO of our company. He seems to have it all together. I'm telling you today, that's just, he puts the ADD in ADD. He's very all over the place. And so you never know with Willie. But when I try to think of a lab to describe my Uncle Si, there's only one I know. Well, there it is. Boom. Those of you that watch our show, you know that's true, right? My Uncle Si is really the star of our show. He's the one that people love to watch. And if you think of Andy Griffith, you think of Uncle Si as Barney. You know, that's the reason you like that show, right? He's hilarious. Uncle Si was in the military for 25 years. He was in Vietnam in 1968. That's his picture. If you look at him now and then, you think, man, the years have been unkind to Uncle Si. He's lived through a lot, right? But he's a wonderful, godly, and spiritual man. He just started. He wants to do a music career, and he's fronting a band called Si and the Psychotics. That's really true. And so the bad thing is he can't sing, but we don't have the heart to tell him that. So we're just letting him follow his dreams. Let me tell you a little bit about my folks and kind of what led us to be here in a part of the show. My mom and dad was here not too long ago and spoke at the Western Conservatives, and I heard he did a great job. Mom and dad, of course, are really the glue and the heart and soul of our show, and especially mom. She just has a way. Everybody loves Miss Kay, you know, and I always tell people the reason you love her is the reason we love her as our mom. She's the real deal. They were teenagers, 16 and 14 years old when they first found each other. My grandpa, my mom's dad, had just passed away suddenly. And so her mother, who was much younger than him and depended on him, just really lost it and went off the deep end, turned to alcohol, and just basically left the home. So mom is 14 years old. Her older sister's out of the home, married. Her mom is off the deep end. Her dad is dead. And so she just really was left there. And so my dad came in at that moment, 16 years old. He's the quarterback of the football team. She's the cheerleader, you know, and they began a relationship. Unfortunately, like a lot of teenagers who spend too much time alone and without supervision, when mom was 16, she found out she was pregnant with me. Dad was about to start at Louisiana Tech. And so, you know, even in 1964, she was faced with a decision about what to do about that. As a guy who's sitting here who's about to be 52 years old, I'm very happy to say I'm glad that she chose life in that moment, or I wouldn't be able to be talking to you today. But it was very hard. That's a hard choice because it was a tough life for them. Dad went on to Louisiana Tech and, of course, became a very good quarterback there. And Terry Bradshaw was his backup, interestingly enough, while they were there. So it was pretty interesting. But Dad also lost his way during this period of time spiritually. And, of course, Mom did as well. And so my first 10 years of my life were really growing up in a non-Christian home with a dad who drank too much, spent too much time in the woods and killing stuff, and not enough time home taking care of his boys. And he'll tell you that to this day. So the man he is now, he is that way because Christ was renewed in him, and he became that man. And so he's been very open about that, as with all of us. The episode that Jeff mentioned earlier was an episode called Till Duck Do Us Part, and it was the fourth-season premiere. It was also my premiere on the show. 11.8 million homes that night tuned in to watch this 50-year celebration of Mom and Dad. I always look at it as my debut on Duck Dynasty, largest show ever. I mean, I'm not saying it's because of me. I'm just saying I happen to be on there. So, but anyway, it was a very special time for our family. It was also a special time for me because I walked through a lot of the difficult days being there for Mom, looking out for my brothers when my dad wasn't there, and she relied a lot on me. We're very close today. She's very close to Lisa as well, and that's because we built that. That was a dynamic for our family. I lost my way as a teenager. I became a prodigal son for about 4 years, wound up leaving my home, leaving the church, leaving Lisa. I broke her heart when she was a sophomore in high school. When I graduated, I was 17 years old, and Dad had that sit-down conversation with me that, Al, you got a choice here. You can change, or you got to go. And what's interesting is this is the same choice he had quite a few years earlier. He's either had to change or he was going to lose his family. He changed. I didn't. It took me a couple more years. I had to kind of get that pig pen experience. You remember the prodigal son in Luke 15? He woke up in the hog pen, thought, what am I doing here? The same thing happened to me on the wrong end of a jealous husband's crowbar in New Orleans, Louisiana. It was my pig pen moment. And in that moment, I thought, you know what? Life in North Louisiana was not too bad. And all this drinking and drugging is really not going to advance me very far. And so I realized at 18 years old that I wouldn't see 19 if I stayed in New Orleans and continued that way. So I kind of worked myself up a good speech, and I was going to do just like that prodigal son in Luke 15. I was going to go home and convince my dad to just hire me. I didn't deserve to be a son, but if I could just be a hired hand, it would work. They met me in the yard, and they hugged me, and they didn't give me a long list of sins, and they didn't tell me about all the wrong things I did. They did just like the Father did in Luke 15, which is represented by the way of any of us that lose our way. They embraced me and welcomed me back. That night, we killed the fattened catfish and had a celebration because the lost son had come home. And so I began my life anew. I called Lisa up. She was in high school. Come on back up, man. She was in high school, and she was dating a guy pretty seriously. And I'd heard that, and I, it had never left me that I had broken her heart, and her life had gone into a complete tailspin for that 2 years after. And I knew a little bit about that. And so I wanted to make amends and do right by her. And also I wanted a girl who loved me enough that would settle down and want to live a life with me. 32 years later, obviously, I picked the right one to be able to do that. But I called her up, and I said, I'm back in town. Because, I was still a little bit, Rico Suave. I thought I still had it, even though I was a new creature. I told Lisa, I said, I'm back in town. And she said, I heard you were back. And I said, well, I heard you're dating this guy, like, super serious and all this. I'm here and talk, And she said, oh, yeah, we're talking about getting married when I get out of high school. And I said, well, you want to go out Friday? And then there was a pause, and then
I said, absolutely.
So that poor guy never had a chance. So we had a second first date because our first date was horrible because I was horrible. And we built a relationship. And we were going to wait a year to get married, but we also, this time, we're going to do it the right way and no sex, and we were going to be committed to Christ. So 6 months in, we said, if we're going to hold our commitment, we might ought to step that timetable up just a little bit. And we did. So I asked her to marry me on Friday, November the 2nd. And
we got married Friday, November the 9th.
Which I didn't believe in long engagements because my thinking was if you wanted to spend the rest of your life with someone, you want the rest of your life to begin as soon as possible, right? And this made me really a big hit with her parents, and especially her mom. And it took us about 12 years to work through that one, by the way. It can be done. You have to be humble, men, if you pull that stunt. But we got married, and we had a lot of issues. We brought a lot of what we call unpacked bags into our relationship, and it took us a while to sort them out, quite a few years, in fact. But 32 years later, we have a beautiful family now. Show that next picture. That's the us of today. Oh, that's us at the wedding, and me with a beard, by the way, when my brothers couldn't grow one. And then that's our family now. My youngest daughter was pregnant with our youngest grandson in that picture. He's not there yet. Now he is. They named him, my youngest daughter's husband is named Vincent Mancuso. He's Italian Cajun, which is quite the combination. And they named my youngest grandson Doc Santino Mancuso. And I was like, you have created a mafia hitman for my youngest son. What kind of name is this? But we love our grandkids and the blessing. And one thing I'll do to close before we do the Q&A, we went to Alaska last year doing some work for our cruise. And while we were there, we met this wonderful artist. And so we went into his studio, and he had these beautiful paintings. The first one was the Northern Lights. That's on there. Show that one. And it's like at one end, and it's just fantastic. I mean, it's the whole end of a wall. So when you walk in, you see it from like 100 feet away, and it looks literally like you're looking at the Northern Lights. So I tell Lisa, I said, we're going to get a print before we leave here today. She said, oh, I'm excited. So we saw these beautiful. The next one was Mount McKinley, which is Mount Denali now. It's like, oh, this guy and this artwork. And then I saw this next one. And Lisa wasn't with me when I saw it. And it's like Alaska in hell, is what it looks like. And it is Alaskan landscape, and it's a little hard to see because of the picture. But when I saw it, I was like, something about it just drew me to it. And I don't know if you can tell. Yeah, you can tell a little bit. You can see right here at the foot of this tree or whatever that is, there's like a guy there. He's kind of bent down. He's kneeling down. And about halfway up that road, there he is again. And up on top of the mountain, which is kind of brighted out, you can't see him, he's up there with his hands raised. And when I saw that and I saw the name was Through the Fires of Pain, it just spoke so much to me about my own life, about mine and Lisa's life, about our family's life, and about what God can do when we're broken and we give ourselves to it. And so I told Lisa, I announced that was the print that we were going to get. And Lisa said, that's so ugly. She didn't see the name or know the story. And I was like, but wait till you hear the story. And so after I told the story, she agreed. And so we bought that. And we framed it, and now it's hanging above our bed as a reminder that to have a relationship, you have to go through some difficulty and let God do what he does best through that. And that's exactly what led to our book, and that's where we talk about that openly. It's really neat because Megan found the book at Inside Edition because the publishers had probably sent it there when we released it last year, and she just saw it on her way out of the office and thought, oh, that's the people I'm going to be with. Got it and read it and knows about our story now. I can't wait to read her book on the way home, on our way home, because we definitely have a new friend. So anyway, that's the basis behind our book, behind our life, where we are. We came out with a new couples devotional book. It's for married couples and premarital couples as well to build spiritual intimacy. So we're very excited about that and the work that God is doing with us. So we appreciate being here today. Thank you.